We're proud to announce that today is sponsored by the Legal Burnout Solution. The Legal Burnout Solution empowers legal practitioners to protect their well-being and their livelihood by using science-based tools to reduce stress, improve performance, and prevent burnout. If you want to learn more about their free online meditation community, please visit legalburnout.com/community. I've actually meditated with them. It was super helpful. They're amazing people who run just an incredible organization. And somebody who's not a stranger to the legal burnout solution is our guest today. Over the years, he served as an attorney, an author for the ABA, a columnist for Massachusetts Law Weekly, among many other wonderful accomplishments. If you think that seems like a lot to balance, don't worry, because he's also a time management expert. Christopher Earley of the Earley Law Group is here with us now and will be sharing some of his top time management tips. Welcome to our Reboot Camp, Christopher. It is wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm very humbled by the opportunity. Thank you so very much, truly.
You are too humble, because I'm very excited to have you here. Selfishly, I love talking with you, and so I want to ask you, because this was one of my favorite things that we talked about the last time that we spoke, and you were encouraging our audience and attorneys in general to do what you call eating the frog, right? You want people to eat the frog. I'm sure that our viewers who aren't familiar with that phrase might be a little confused. So can you explain to us exactly what you mean by eat the frog?
Sure. And just real quickly, you referenced meditation. That to me ties into time management, because if you exercise the meditation muscles, it enables you to focus better and take good care of your time. So I think they're sort of very, very compatible concepts. But eat the frog, I didn't come up with that. It's Brian Tracy, who, if you never heard of him, he's a success speaker and author. He's an expert on many topics relating to managing time wisely, and he coined the phrase "eat the frog," which really just means eat the frog. Do that thing first thing in the morning that you're dreading, that you don't want to do, whether it be replying to summary judgment opposition, calling a client, whatever you're kind of dreading, just do it, get it over with. Because once you do, you will find that very emboldening, because you realize, I just did something that I didn't want to do, and I'm pretty ready for whatever else is in front of me for this day. So it just really helps kickstart your day on a high note, because everything else is going to be pretty simple compared to what you just did by eating the frog. So that's what that's about, and just getting the day started on the right foot, because you could put that off until the end of the day, but we all know that's going to be in the front of your brain. You're thinking about that, dreading it. You're going to make it a bigger deal than it really is. So just knock it out, move on to the next task of the day. I find that to be very, very helpful throughout the course of the week, for sure.
I'm a very big procrastinator, and I also I watch a lot of content, because I like to work on myself and consistently get better at different areas of my life, right? And I read or I was listening to a business coach talk about somebody who coaches high performing individuals, and they were talking about procrastination being like a drug, and that the effect that you get from procrastination is you get like a tiny bit of relief every single time you get to push the task forward. But it sort of becomes like that addict type of behavior where you continuously procrastinate in order to get the relief. So if you want to get the ultimate relief, you eat the frog and you do the thing first, which I've started to implement. And I've noticed that the rest of my day goes much smoother when I do the one thing that I know is, I don't know, the huge pain in my neck for the day. If I can get that out of the way, everything else seems a little bit more manageable, and I have a lot more time. So there's usually, I can tell you that there's always really one thing that I don't want to do when I show up in the morning. And I think another thing that I talk about consistently, especially with the people that I manage, is trying to separate busy work, like this busy work that we create for ourselves, from actual productive work. So can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between these two things, productive and busy work, and tell us how you've sort of been more intentional about separating the two as you've gotten further into your career?
For sure. Just a quick book recommendation that I just thought of as you were just talking it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller, a very successful real estate magnate. It's a great book. If you never read it, the one thing talks about how can you identify that one thing that by doing that one thing, everything else will be made easier or unnecessary. So it's a real kind of time management on steroids, if you will. Just makes your life, I feel, easier. Just identifying that one thing, whatever that may be, but that requires a lot of intention and purpose. But for me, Nick, the busy versus productive analysis is really, to me, what undergirds time management, right? So as we seek to manage our time most effectively as we possibly can, we want to be productive as much as we can, right? And busy as least as possible. You know, busy work for me, things like checking emails, responding to unscheduled phone calls, versus productive work that moves the needle. Perhaps that's hiring someone, perhaps that's incorporating a new system. Anything you can do to advance your practice, your business, your position at your firm forward is productive. And this harkens back to the 80-20 rule, right? 80-20 rule basically states, 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort. So you got to identify, right? What's going to move the needle for me? What's going to be productive? Is responding to email or taking those unscheduled phone calls gonna get me a lot of productivity, or am I just simply being busy and spinning my wheels? Because I feel like the busier we get, the more we spin our wheels, the more unhappier we can actually become. So by really leveraging, 80-20 principles, identifying the minority of tasks that bring the biggest impact, right, to your practice and to your life, I feel like can really, from a personal standpoint, promote my happiness, my sanity. So I'm just a much more pleasant person to live with for my family. I can tell you that. But yeah, 80-20, if you've never explored it, I highly encourage it. It's a game changer for me for sure.
I sometimes feel bad when I'm working on something that I'm like, I know this isn't going to produce a lot of results when I follow that rule, but I find it to be so true that even like the small things that I do, as long as I know that they're going to add up to that one big push that I'm going to make, that is going to give me the results, that's sort of like the reward that I need in order to do the menial tasks that maybe I wouldn't want to do. But speaking of menial tasks, I know that you recommend that attorneys delegate as many tasks as they possibly can. So are there any specific, like, I don't know, common tasks that you feel in particular that lawyers absolutely need to be handing off to someone else that can really, that are like day killers if they don't?
If there's, say, a $20 an hour job or a $50 an hour job, right? Maybe that can best be delegated to someone else who probably is even, who's potentially better than you at doing the task anyway. So if you have staff in your office, delegate to them, let them get out of their way, right? And get out of your own way by getting things off your desk. I feel like the attorney should be doing attorney work and nothing else. I feel like the process of delegation is a process of shedding things we've become accustomed to doing that we're just used to doing, right? But things like, paying bills, perhaps, repetitive tasks, again, email, unscheduled phone calls, when the copier breaks, you're the person who kind of, fixes that. Get those things, responsibilities off your desk as much as possible. Because as attorneys, we have so much pressure, right? A lot of it is, from opposing counsel, clients, judges, many external pressures on us. So you can only handle so much, right? And there's only so many minutes in a day. So I would encourage everyone on this call, Nick, look around your office and commit to delegating one thing today, right? And then commit to doing something, delegate something else tomorrow. And you talked about mindset, right? You're going to start to get into that mindset of just shedding, getting it off your desk. And because therefore you're being a highly productive attorney, which is what you went to school for, which is what you've invested so much of your time and money to become. So let's use that license to be as productive as possible, right? But we have to first identify what's productive, what's busy, right? Anything that's busy for you, busy work, delegate it. If it's productive, I look at that more closely. Should I be doing this productive work, or maybe someone better suited to do it for me? Again, but you can't just delegate and run away, Nick. Right? You can't just say, "Oh, here's this task, John. I just bang it out, please. Thank you so much." No, you got to say, "Hey, John, here's a motion. I need it by Friday, and here's what it kind of should look like when it's completed." Just you can't abdicate when you delegate. You can't just give something to someone. It's unfair to that person. You have to be very intentional and deliberate. This is what I need it done by. This is the way it should be look like at the very end. This is how you should get to that process. But I think delegation in many ways is an art form, because I think, personally speaking, I know for many years I was doing it the wrong way, and that's just, you're just shooting yourself in the foot and you're getting in the way of everybody else. So delegate effectively, be intentional, be smart how you delegate, but delegate as much as you can. And then I just think that's going to just increase your productivity, which I think, as I said before, increases happiness and overall job satisfaction, reduces stress. All the good things go up and all the bad things go down, I find, when I try to exercise these things by practice.
So this is from somebody who's really like a reformed delegator. When I first got into like managing people, because I had like I was just talking with somebody about this. I had a very rapid rise in the ranks in this organization, mostly because we grew so fast that I had to learn how to manage other people and really work with vendors and manage a lot of projects. And I took on all of this work, and it felt like I owned all of this work, right? I owned all of the efforts. I owned all of the results. It was all my responsibility, and there was nobody who could do it better than me. And what I really had to realize was that that's just my mindset, right? I'm the only person telling myself that I'm the only person who can do this. When in fact, the reality is more so that, like, if I quit, or if I left, or even if I passed away, there would be somebody who could do it. They could do my job. That's the nature of the game. So I had to like learn that mindset plays a big role in really anybody's ability to effectively manage their schedule, but namely attorneys, because you take ownership of a lot of stuff in your own law firm, right? You feel responsible for the outcome for your clients' cases. So how do we sort of make these particular mindset adjustments that help become more of an effective manager of our time?
So, we spoke before about being very intentional, and I think it all stems from mindset, right? What are you trying to achieve? Personally, I am in the process of scaling my firm. So I sort of begin with the end in mind, right? I sort of envision, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years, 10 years, right? And so for me, everything is geared towards accomplishing those tasks, those steps in that process. So there's vision, right? There's intention, being very, very, very purposeful. But yeah, attorneys, sometimes we think a little too highly of ourselves. It's like, I think John Morgan Nick said once, all cemeteries are full of irreplaceable, people, meaning that like these people that have passed at some point, they thought, oh no, no one can replace me, no one can do this. Well, actually, yeah. So it's just human. Attorneys, not attorneys. Human nature is, I can only do this. If you can just work around that and get out of your own way. Again, I've mentioned that before. Just because I'm a big, I'm very bad about getting in my own way. So I'm always trying to be purposeful and getting out of my own way. But the more you take off your plate, it's painful at first. You're going to have to let go of the reins and cede some control to others for tasks. At the end of the day, it's your bar license. It's your client. You're on the hook. But you got to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. You got to be okay with not handling everything, because frankly, that's unsustainable. It's going to drive you freaking crazy, right? So, just get it off your plate as much as you can. And because I don't think any of us really truly enjoy the busy stuff that's repetitive, that's mundane. I think we enjoy stimulating work that provokes thought and creativity, right? So if you have the mindset where it's just me, only I can do it, you can't grow. I think growth requires a lot of discomfort. I believe really the more uncomfortable you can get, the more you grow. And I found that past few years, the more I delegate, the more growth happens, more personal growth I realize, the more growth my team individually and collectively realizes. So again, let's get out of the way. We're totally replaceable, and others should be doing things that we have no business doing. Because, Nick, if we're doing certain tasks that are not conducive regarding time management, we're doing ourselves a disservice. our family, everybody in our world is being done a disservice by us not managing our time well, right? So let's get our head right from the start is, okay, how can I be smart about my role? There's no need to have fires burning in the office every day. There's no need to have arguments and yelling. Let's have a calm environment where everyone's executing at a high level. And this is a little bit off top, but systems, right? Because a lot of what we're talking about, eating the frog, 80-20 rule delegation, a lot of this is about systems, right? We can't just, a football team doesn't go out there and start throwing the football around the football field. We have there's a playbook on how you accomplish these things. I think a law firm or any business or any operation, any team has to be to the highest level systematized. So everyone's really firing on all cylinders. But yeah, there's plenty of people that can do the things that you're doing on your own, probably at a higher level. So let them do it and then get out of their way.
For anyone tuning in a little late, welcome to our law firm summer reboot camp. My name is Nick Werker. Today we're focused on law office management, and here with me today is Christopher Earley from the Earley Law Group. We're talking about time management, and I am a sucker for any like metaphor involving football. So that made a lot of sense to me, right? Is you wouldn't show up to a football game and just call hike and throw the ball, or you could, it just wouldn't be that successful. So I want to talk more about this concept that we spoke a little bit about last time, but I don't think that this is a common term, right? We're talking about delegation and time management and other things, but I want to talk about this concept called batching with you. And batching is a practice that a lot of attorneys have maybe heard about, but might not be fully familiar with. So can you tell us, the audience, me, because I want to know what exactly batching is and why it can be such a useful strategy for attorneys managing their firm?
Yeah. So Nick, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do routinely each day or even hourly, right? Whatever that may be, these repetitive type tasks that we frankly can probably do half awake with one eye closed. I find very conducive to batch similar tasks or the same tasks that you do repetitively, do them at the same time. Now that could mean client phone calls. Now I mentioned before, I don't take unscheduled phone calls. If you're taking unscheduled phone calls, please stop today. And that's a big pain point for me initially and for a lot of people. But if you take anything away from this talk today, this call, don't take unscheduled phone calls. Happy to share more about that. But when I heard that, I thought it was so out there, so revolutionary and so controversial and contrarian that how would that work? It's a game changer. But that goes back to batching. So I return client calls in a particular hour of the day or a few hours long segment, because my brain is thinking about client communication, and that gets me a little bit more primed to be effective at that task of talking to clients, talking about cases, whether it be litigation cases. We do personal injury here, right? It can be a personal injury case litigation or just a personal injury claim, but the neurons are firing in that department of the brain regarding client phone calls. Other tasks, maybe you bang a lot of motions, put motions together and do them, consecutively, put them together. Again, this comes back to being intentional. For me, there's also an idea called time blocking, right? Where before the week starts, you can actually create your calendar, right? On Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to do XYZ for 20 minutes. Another technique I just want to raise quickly is the Pomodoro Technique. It's another time management technique. You set a timer for 20 minutes, do a task, take a break, right? Because I'm a big believer in not, grinding. Again, this call is all about working intelligently and in a smart way to be as effective as possible with as least amount of work and effort as possible, right? Let's use time to our advantage. Let's be really, really smart about it. So batching, Nick, just another way to be efficient, kind of lean out the way you distribute your task and duties throughout the day. But just this is all one concept that's all in alignment, which is, we're going to 80-20 everything. Is it productive? Okay. If it is productive, should I be doing it or should I delegate it? No, I shouldn't delegate. Well, okay, then I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in a smart manner. Another idea is the idea of Parkinson's law. And that's another time management idea. Parkinson's law basically states that a task will take the amount of time that you anticipate it will take, right? So if you said, all right, this motion for summary judgment is going to take an hour and a half, it's going to take you an hour and a half. Now, if you can before that say, no, actually, it's going to take me an hour, chances are very good you'll get it done in 1 hour. So I encourage you to try that, because this is all about getting the mind to work in our favor and not work against us. Sometimes the mind can do it. This goes back to the meditation we talked about, right? Quieting that noise and those discordant thoughts we all have from time to time, but just getting focused on the task at hand. But batching is tremendously helpful for sure, definitely.
So I love the idea of sort of segmenting out the day, right? That's how I sort of think about it in batching terms, is that I have an hour or two set aside where I return phone calls. I have an hour where I look at my email. I have an hour where I focus on, if you're an attorney, you focus on motions or briefs or case strategy or research, whatever you crazy people do that I don't. I'm not a lawyer. But I'm also a big proponent of, whenever I find that there's an additional need, before I go and try to make a hire, what I try to do is utilize a tool or a piece of technology that can help me more effectively manage either that task or particular project that I'm working on. So, like, for example, I'm putting on this webinar. Instead of trying to go out and hire somebody to manage this whole live event, what I did is I created a web form where people could register, and I set up an automation trigger and an email so that everybody could get all the things. And we didn't need to go out and just hire somebody. I used a tool. So how can attorneys utilize technology to more effectively manage their day-to-day, but also kind of improve their time management skills?
So I would encourage anyone, if you're not already using one, to utilize a CRM, customer relationship manager, that can assist your personal time management. Let me give you an example. So a CRM can basically set up automated drip emails. So that reduces the amount of client contact that my office needs to initiate or engage in. And the clients like that, because the clients, frankly, they don't want to call the law office. They want to call the firm. They want to just sort of, it's not something that they look forward to, right? I think they'd rather just get as information as efficiently and as productively as possible, right? So what we do, Nick, instead of using the phone call for all communication, we utilize a CRM. So we'll set up, again, an automated drip sequence, which sort of gets into the client's head of issues, questions, problems they're probably thinking about in their case, whether their case is in litigation or it's not in litigation, whether it's a slip and fall case or a motor vehicle accident, whatever it is, it's a very granular set of emails that again get into the client's head of anticipating things that they want to know about, right? So that helps your time management because the phones aren't ringing nearly as much. Another thing we do is we utilize a CRM for email marketing. Email marketing is highly effective. If you're not utilizing email marketing, I feel you're missing out. We send an email, a well thought of, I really put time into this. This is an 80-20 rule, right? I think it's a good use of my time is to get really smart on the copywriting of the email, the subject line of the email. If we send an email out, now this isn't automated, this is an organic, we created this unique email once a week to our whole list. And it's just another way to continue the dialogue with your clients, right? But that's sort of another topic. But again, we're to your point, Nick, we're leveraging technology, we're leveraging automation so we can do more with less, right? You're able to effectively utilize technology without having to spend more money on payroll, right? So that sounds like a really smart investment. Other technologies we utilize are something called Calendly, so clients can conveniently schedule phone calls. Because again, personally, I don't take unscheduled phone calls, so clients appreciate that. They can schedule a call and a date and time that works for them, and they appreciate the convenience. Because again, my firm are all about serving the client, always serving the client. Everything's for the betterment of the client. If we can make the client journey easier, well, then we're always looking to do that. So if you can do that in any way, shape, or form, but yeah, make it easy for the clients, right? Make it easy to schedule an appointment, and just another, technology can also go the other way, Nick. Email, right? We've talked about that before. Email is, I think, toxic in many ways. I think it has a purpose, but for most of it, it's mostly a waste of time. How can we batch email checking? How can we minimize that, marginalize that? I'm at the point where I want to outsource that to a third party. You could use a VA, virtual assistant. You could hire someone, a freelancer. Just I would encourage you to get out of your inbox as much as possibly can, because it's just terribly troublesome, right? To have your hair on fire responding to emails. That's a bad use of our time, right? Not a good time management idea whatsoever. But yeah, like you said, the more you can utilize technology, the more you can leverage it, the more time you have to do things you want to do, right? And create the life that you want to live, both professionally and personally. Because the more better, Nick, we can manage our time in the office, the more time we have at home. The more time we have to be actually at home, present at home, and not, on the weekends thinking about work and working, right? Let's work really intelligently during the work week. And then we can get home hopefully at 5 o'clock and be present with our spouse and kids, and on the weekend as well, right? Let's get the time management hammered out. For me, I'm a student of this, and I'm always trying to learn and get better. There's always a way to sharpen the axe, I feel like, Nick, right? There's always a way to improve things. And I'm on an odyssey to do that. But again, if as attorneys, you could get sucked up. So your time is just sucked up by so many people. You got, again, unscheduled phone calls. Your phone is lighting up. You're going crazy. Emails, your inbox is piling up. You're going crazy. It's not good for stress. Cortisol gets released. It's not good for our mental sanity. So for me, really the overarching idea is let's get as happy as possible, as sane as possible, and control time so it doesn't control us.
So I want to ask you more about this concept of email addiction, because, and I think this could be a really useful example for everything that we're talking about to sort of come together and turn on the light bulb for anybody who's watching or listening to this, is that how can we sort of overcome this addiction to our email where we spend time checking it? It's almost like in between, because I know for me, in between every single task, I'll open my email, I'll read what comes in, I'll check it, I'll respond, I'll do all the things that you're supposed to do with email. But because I do that in between all of my tasks, I waste a lot of time. So I know that we're talking about delegation and trying to use technology, but how can we sort of leverage either a staff member or a virtual assistant or anything like that in order to become more effective with our time, in the example of being addicted to our email inbox?
Well, you're speaking my language, and for me, as I said, I get in my own way a lot, and to me, it's very scary to totally have someone else in my inbox. I think I've looked into this extensively. It's totally doable, but you got to really educate someone, because this will be an ongoing thing. Hey, Nick, is this important email? Or Nick, what should I do with this? I think that requires a lot of nurturing, a lot of educating. The individual will be taking care of that for you. But, it's true. They say, email checking can release dopamine. It's a pleasure thing. It's like, that's what we talk about, the addiction word, right? You're going back for another fix, not to be dramatic, but that's what it is. Dopamine gets released, right? I've read a lot of, much smarter people than me. They've written books and they talk about, lay off that dopamine hit for a while. Wait till 11 o'clock in the morning, right? Batch those emails. Calendar block on Sunday, right? Each day I'm going to check email at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Whatever that may be, whatever works well with your schedule, right? Maybe that's once a day, once a week. But I feel like the ones who've really figured it out are checking once every few days. I went on vacation with my family, went to Disney very recently for 4th of July. And I didn't check email for 4 days. And I'll tell you, I was getting stressed out. Oh my God, what's in there? But I had to use those muscles and say, okay, you gotta just not look. And lo and behold, Nick, I came back, nothing was on fire. Everything was fine. There were no catastrophes. Again, we're very replaceable, right? My firm was running very well without me, right? And it kind of goes back to systems again that we talked about. But I think a lot of this comes back to educating clients, right? That, hey, I don't take unscheduled phone calls. Don't expect an email response quickly. If you can educate the clients from the start, Nick, on how we do things in this firm, there's gonna be no curveballs. They'll understand. Okay, this is how they do it. I can understand their idea, their methodology. They have a lot of stuff going on. They have to manage their time, so clients understand that. But leverage the fact that clients will understand your need to prioritize your time, and educate them from the start that this is how this is our firm communication policy. We have that written in a letter, right? In a very clear language. This is how our firm communicates. So I've never had a client, Nick, say, oh, what's up with this email policy? Or how come I can't get on the phone? If they don't get that, for the small minority of people, right? If someone does have a problem with that, it's probably not a good fit. And so we're not really too aligned enough with each other to work together. So maybe it's not a good fit. I'm totally okay with parting ways with the client, because it's a disservice to myself, my team, and the client if we're not aligned on what's important with getting a successful outcome. Because frankly, we talked about the phone, right? If I'm working on a case and someone calls on schedule, and I take that phone call, I'm doing a disservice to the client whose file I was just looking at. That client is being shortchanged because now I have to get away from that client's file and focus on the phone call that just came in, right? And that client that just called in it's a disservice to him or her, because I'm not ready for the phone call. I'm not ready to talk about the case because I'm in a totally different mindset, right? But one other thing I just want to bring up, I think multitasking is a joke. It's been scientifically proven that there's no way you can just do 100 things at once. The brain doesn't work that way, right? When you get distracted, there's like a lag. It takes time to get focused again. Your brain can't ping pong, right? This is another time management thing. Just really try to be smart about that as much as you can. And be very sensitive to that, because again, we keep talking about the brain, but that's really what we're talking about, is mindset and trying to get this thing right as much as we possibly can, right?
I really like the idea that when it comes to multitasking, right, and multitasking and not sort of doing or batching tasks is the idea for me of like being in line at I think of the pizza commercial with like Little Caesars, and somebody jumps the line and everybody yells out, "You're a line cutter, you're a line cutter." Like a phone call comes in, I wouldn't want it to just cut the line of my other clients. I would intentionally want to take care of that client first. And then when it's that phone call's turn to get returned, then I would follow up and do that phone call. But we spoke yesterday to Joshua Lennon, who is, he's the numbers guy for Clio. He does all the research for the Legal Trends report, really synthesizes it and helps to make a lot of the translations for what attorneys need into the actual software. And he was telling us that attorneys on average are only billing like 1.6 hours per day out of an 8-hour workday. So for anybody who thinks that like time management is just a luxury that you can build into your practice, well, it actually can get monetized, because if you become more intentional about managing your time, you can bill more hours and make more money. I actually I want to get to 2 of these questions, so I'm going to go in order. Can you go, Mr. Christopher Earley, can you go into your process for scheduling phone calls a little more in depth? And then Lisa, I promise I will not let him leave. We're going to respond to that too.
All right, this is a super, for me, so important, because this is a fundamental time management thing for me, right? So it sounds kind of strange, but there's a code word, apples. If someone tells she's a receptionist, but I call her director first impressions. I hate the name receptionist secretary. She's a director first impressions. She's the one that everyone sees when they walk in the office. So director first impressions, answers the phone. If a client, lawyer, whoever says apples, that means I'm expecting the call. It's a scheduled call, right? If they say, "Hey, just want to talk to Chris for a second," real super quick, it's not going to happen, right? Unless it's, family emergency. Even still, unless it's super important, like I'm just basically not around, right? Because we're talking about ping pong just before, right? And it's not effective. It's not smart. It's not going to promote my happiness, make me a better lawyer, a better team leader here. So if people, whatever way you want to do it, doesn't have to be a code word like a speakeasy per se, but people do get a kick out of it. They kind of laugh, and that's raises a chuckle. But whatever you need to do to set up walls, because I find that personally, I'm, as I said, hyper focused on client satisfaction. I'm obsessed with reviews, obsessed with making sure my clients are raving fans. But I find the easier you are to get to, the less you're respected in terms of your time, right? The more accessible you become, you're more of a commodity. If people need to take effort and wait out time to reach you. They respect you, they respect your time more, and it promotes everything. You said before, Nick, working productively makes you more money. There's no doubt about it, right? If we're spending time, playing phone tag, call me back, John, or it wastes the day. And then before you know, you just wasted 2 hours checking email, playing phone tag, fixing the copier that you shouldn't be doing. All this stuff adds up, and you have no business, no right, doing that if you really truly care about having a happy, successful, profitable practice. But for me, again, that's very revolutionary and disruptive and controversial. It's only taking unscheduled phone calls. I would have it no other way. I would never look back. I've never talked to anyone who incorporated that, Nick, and said, "Oh, that was a bad decision. I'm going to go back to taking, always being available." It's not going to happen. It's just not. Yeah, it's just super effective. If you can somehow marry the idea of no unscheduled phone calls and get off the email as much as possible, you've just massively improved your life. I promise you that for sure. But these things take time, and it's hard. But you have to be willing to go through the pain.
So speaking of the pain, Lisa Meggs says, as a solo practitioner, the idea of only checking email once a day scares me to death. And I understand, because so as a separate story, when I first started here, we were very, 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 very small organization. And I essentially ran all of our marketing and inbound lead generation by myself. And so anything that came through in the pipeline, it was all manual. I didn't have automation set up or anything like that. I didn't even know any of this stuff yet. This is all like learned on my part. And so I would sit and do all these tests and check my email and do the test and check my email, because I was waiting for the lead to come in so that I could do something about it. I would call them myself. I would sign up the account. I didn't have any processes. And so I know that when you're doing it all by yourself, it seems like I have to get to everything that comes in. So there's nobody better person than to ask you, Christopher Earley, than how should we, right? Lisa, everybody else here, sort of get past this idea of being scared of only checking email. I don't know necessarily that once a day is the answer for a sole practitioner. It might be much more than once a day, but it's what would you say to this statement?
Well, it's what kind of life do you want, right? I mean, what do you want? Do you want to be on that sort of that treadmill of just trying to keep up with the pace of the emails? To me, it's unsustainable. I'm going to drop my email into the chat. So I stole this from another lawyer, a friend of mine. I put an autoresponder on. So whenever you send me an email, Nick, you've probably seen this. If you send me an email, you're going to get an autoresponder. Each and every email gets it. It may annoy people, but it's just the way it is, unfortunately. So it basically says, I've received your email, and basically it states we get over 100 emails a day. We have attorneys, clients, sometimes judges, emailing us. So we ensure you that your email will be acted upon as soon as possible. But it educates the person. Okay, I'm not going to get a response in 5 minutes. It may not even be today. So Lisa, that goes to sort of priming that person, and in terms of an expectancy that it's not going to be quick. That's kind of aiding you, right, to get off of email. That's enabling you to step away, right? That tether isn't so strong now because people aren't expecting, Lisa to get right back to them, right? Now, I mean, yeah, you could do twice a day. I mean, do what makes you happy, right? Figure that out. Are you a morning person? Well, okay, maybe do it in the morning, do it at night, whatever rhythm works well with your nature, who you are as a person, right? But it's very doable. All this stuff, I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But you got to be serious and hungry to get more out of your practice, more happiness, right? More time, more profit, more everything. Like I said, happiness at home. I mean, I'm not on my email. My family never sees me on my phone because the work gets done in an organized way. And of course, there's some things happen once in a while, and you got to get on the phone. That's very, very rare, though, right? Once you can kind of get things lined up in your favor, things work out very well for you, I find.
I do want to add that something that I've adopted that I sort of forgot about because it seems so very automatic to me is that I have filters on my email so that certain things that come in that I would consider like high priority, need my attention, almost emergency types of things that come in, get moved to a certain type of inbox. And then everything else is it's called like updates or promotions or something like that. And you can sort of teach your Gmail what types of emails go where. It takes a while to get the inbox to sort of understand what's what, but I found that it's really important because I like to keep a finger on the pulse of like what's happening on the day-to-day, but I also try to be more intentional with my time, which is the stuff that Christopher Earley has really taught me. So what I think is, if you're not comfortable with filters, anything that you consider like an emergency, say, for example, if you get, I don't know, a transcribed phone call from like a legal intake or a web form for a potential new client, set up a different email address that gets those emails, so that when that email goes off, that's the one that you can keep in your pocket and say, oh, okay, somebody needs to respond to that. Maybe I'm the person that needs to respond to that. But it doesn't need to be checking your email constantly. When it goes off and that's considered an emergency for you, that's when you get to it. It's almost like screening your phone calls. You have a receptionist, right? The director of first communications. I like that. But you train that person to know what's important, so that they don't just, hey, this person called, I don't know why they're calling. No, you can be updated on what the matter is and choose whether or not to take it. But you do have to be more intentional about what you're allowing to consume your time, because we're talking about being intentional with our time. I know that you included your email address in here in the chat, and I encourage everybody to really take up Christopher on everything that he has to offer. But I want to get much more official and more in depth on how people can get in touch with you, and sort of what have you got to offer, and how can people get in touch with you, and where should they go to get more stuff from you?
Sure. So I write a monthly newsletter it's called Early on Practice Management, because frankly, I love building a law firm. It just gets me going. It gets my juices flowing. I freaking love it. So I write about practice management, and I come up with content every month that I think lawyers are dealing with and thinking about and considering. And I write about topics like hiring, firing, onboarding team members, building culture, delegation, time management, all these things that for me have moved the needle in the much more into the productive side of time management as opposed to the busy side. So if you want to jump on that, I send me an email, we'll get you on that. It's totally free. Right? I enjoy providing the content. Again, Early on Practice Management. It's got one idea that I kind of delve deeply into each month relating to all things. And even if you don't, own your own firm, it's just things that all lawyers universally deal with, right? Because they'll have common challenges, problems, frustrations, aspirations. And I try to give my 2 cents. And it's been very, very rewarding for me. So if you'd like that, it's called the Early on Practice Management, right? So like I said, happy to get you on that. Send me an email, we'll get you on it. Would love it. Hopefully at some point, hopefully frequently, you'll drive a lot of value from that. And that gives me great satisfaction.
I just want to reiterate to Christopher and everyone here that after the conclusion of this live event, which does conclude today, everyone will be getting a follow-up email that includes links and contact information and plenty more of what everyone has had to offer. That includes the Early on Practice, Christopher's email, and his website, where you can sort of get in touch with him and get into the stuff that we're talking about. I do want to share a personal anecdote, though, that over the past, I want to say, calendar year, I've implemented a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. I've delegated a lot more. I actually hired somebody to do tasks that myself and I promoted the other person who works in my department. And as a result of delegation and all of that stuff, we've completely already this year doubled our output, and we're on pace to, I think, triple it. Hopefully, awesome. I don't know necessarily how much work we've gotten done. I just know that the results are already double. So if anybody thinks that being intentional with your time, delegation, and like the hiring of that one person to do tasks won't make that much of a difference, I assure you that from personal experience, it can. So Christopher, because I believe so much in what you do, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate everything that you do and everything that you're about. You've really been such a help for me, and I know for countless attorneys who both work with you and just consume your content.